Carter. Thanks for joining us. How did you get started as an entrepreneur?
Mine was not maybe a conventional path to entrepreneurship. I started my academic career wanting to go to medical school. So my studies were mostly focused on, biological science and medicine.
Hmm.
And that was like a heavy, heavy focus of mine.
And you
I
were working in a
think,
lab. You were actually doing research as well, right?
yeah, yeah. So I was heavily involved in research. I had a project of my own that I was working on. We were working on a treatment for multiple sclerosis, which still
Hmm.
working on, but
Good.
um, I think I was so focused on like getting to medical school that it took a really rude awakening for me to realize how interested I was in business and entrepreneurship. And
Hmm.
that's what happened. Like I was hit super, super hard, like
Yeah, how'd that happen?
completely killing it with grades and with research. And I was a shoe-in for some top MD, PhD programs I was super interested in.
Hmm.
And I faced some health challenges that took me down for the count. I started failing classes. Like it was really bad. Like it was almost unable to kind of get out of bed and face the day kind of stuff.
And where were you in
And
school at that point? Were you close to graduation or?
no, that was maybe halfway in. Like I was maybe like 2 years in. And I just it all like crumbled around me. And I honestly can't recollect a moment or a certain thing that triggered it for me, but slowly but surely I found my way to entrepreneurship and started to realize that, wow, like this is really cool. The power and the impact that it allows you to have, the freedom that allows you to have.
Hmm.
I was excited to treat a handful of patients every day. And man, that was going to be a pretty big difference I was going to make in the world. Maybe I even do some research that, you know, gives some insights to a cure.
Hmm.
I had no idea before I started learning about entrepreneurship how big of an impact you can have by bringing something to market that never would have gone to market. So I think that's what got me started in entrepreneurship was realizing how powerful it can be as a tool.
And
Now,
had you seen someone succeed, or how did you realize that?
it's interesting because growing up, I didn't know really a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a gentleman that kind of my parents' age, but that I became close with somewhat growing up, Cliff Relaford. He was an entrepreneur, not in tech or medicine.
Hmm.
He owned several different businesses that were extremely successful.
Hmm.
And whenever I started to kind of learn a little bit about what an entrepreneur can be and what they can accomplish,
Hmm.
he was really kind of the first lifeline I went to. Like he was the first one to be like, I mean, I had never had anyone. It was a completely, I felt like, who was it? Jasmine on Aladdin's carpet. Like, holy cow, I've never seen this whole
Oh,
world. I
world.
didn't even know it
Huh.
existed. Like, I really felt like I was being like Harry Potter when he first gets introduced to the magical world, he's like,
Hmm.
goes into Diagon Alley and he's like, holy cow, like I
Hmm.
had no idea that any of this stuff even was possible, but sure enough, like lots and lots and lots of people enjoy that type of career.
And when you realized that, is it because you had a specific technology in mind already, so you were thinking, what do I do here? Or did entrepreneurship come first?
So that's actually an interesting part of my journey is that when I first started to fall in love with entrepreneurship, I thought I would leave biotech behind. I thought
Hmm.
my career in biotech was kind of coming to a close.
Hmm.
I was so enamored with the idea of like owning a business and running something. And for better or for worse, and for the record, I think it's mostly for better, the
Hmm.
entrepreneurship community is very fond of thinking about education in an informal way.
Yeah.
And so part of me was like, do I even need to finish school?
Hmm.
Thankfully, you know, I started a business. I went through the ups and downs of that first failure. And decided to just kind of stick in school because I was already enrolled.
Hmm.
And through that process, I kind of my affections got pulled back to biology. And I was a TA in a biology class at the time, and that really drug my emotions back there. And so for a long time I had this conflict because I'm like, I really like this biological science angle, and I
Hmm.
also really, really desperately want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't really see those things coming together. It intimidated, like the idea of starting a biotech company didn't really seem on the table. It seemed too intimidating. I kind of had this path of like, let's go to medical school, or, hey, maybe at this point I just want to do a PhD. It
Hmm.
wasn't until I took a class at BYU from Tim Jenkins, and
Okay.
you know the class.
Yeah, sure. Hmm.
He really inspired me to think differently about biotech startups, and really inspired me to think, hey, the world that you imagine that's better off with the science that you have to offer, you have the power to bring it about.
Yeah.
And he had just one of his students had just had wild success. Chad Pullard had just
Yeah,
had
sure.
wild success in his business, and Chad was the TA in that class at the time. He was a huge inspiration as well. So it wasn't until that point that I started to realize, hey, wait a minute. I can be an entrepreneur and
Hmm.
still really love biotech and research at the same time. Now, maybe some of my professors would think I've sold out a little bit, but
No,
I
no, you're,
it's an unconventional path perhaps, but I've been enjoying it.
yeah, no, and genuinely, you do love your academic discipline, the bio, like you're very into the science, and just like Chad, you picked a technology that is not super easy. A lot of students will do a software startup. That's great. I love that. But then some like you, especially out of that Tim Jenkins class, will take something that's pretty challenging here. So what technology do you settle on? And we're talking about. I have your website up actually, the Easey Skincare product. How did you get there?
Yeah, so actually Easey Skincare is my second biotech startup.
Hmm.
So the first is called Merge Biotechnologies. It's less public. It's a drug discovery company. And the significant part about that is that it actually stemmed from my work trying to find a treatment for multiple sclerosis. So my mentor and I, Dr. Dario Misrahi, we were working with a bacterial technology that allows us to screen through drug candidates a lot faster. Without going too deep into the numbers, it's about 1,000 times faster and about 1,000 times cheaper than conventional drug screening techniques. Now, it's very
Hmm.
narrow in its scope, but it's very effective at what it does. And
Hmm.
so, as we were working on the blood-brain barrier, which is the interface between your vascular system and your neurological system.
Hmm.
We were using this bacterial technology to mimic those systems, and Dr. Mizrahi was kind of just messing around at one point, doing
Hmm.
some side projects with a similar technology, and found, holy cow, there's a natural product that he tested that
Hmm.
had a profound effect on tissues mimicking the skin.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, I do vital organs. Okay, skin is
Mhm.
like lightweight. Like we care about, the heart, the
Yeah.
lungs, the brain.
Hmm.
And so I just kind of like brushed it off. Whatever. Let's keep working on multiple sclerosis.
Hmm.
And he did some additional testing that this time moving into mammalian cell lines. And the data was so good. Like it was like shocking. So I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, that's fine. But I'm not a skincare guy. Like,
Hmm.
it's the vital organs. So, but the data was so good, we couldn't really resist. We did some testing on people, which,
Hmm.
natural product already generally recognized as safe. So, we were happy to start doing that. And the results were nothing short of unprecedented. The ailment we had targeted at first was eczema. That's our easy healing cream is the product of our eczema testing with that molecule. And
Hmm.
holy cow, I had people that have been suffering with eczema their whole lives, tried everything, no solution. Anyone who's watching, if you have eczema, you know how it is. It's absolutely, impossible to find a solution. We had people within a couple of weeks that were completely clear. And lots
Hmm.
of people. I mean, this wasn't just a handful. And so, yeah, that's kind of when Easy Skincare became a reality in my mind was
Hmm.
not out of I want to be in skincare, but rather I'd rather not, but this is so hard to ignore that I'm almost morally obligated to put this out there because it's helping so many people.
Okay, we took care of the patenting. You licensed the technology from BYU, and the so you probably had, it sounds like, some encouraging anecdotal results from people. How do you go from that to proving out, okay, this is product worthy, and then let's get something manufactured?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's so different than what something like, just as an example, the multiple sclerosis treatment. This is so, so different the way you have to approach it.
Hmm.
And you're actually touching on a big issue in the skincare industry at large, and that is that there's almost no really, really good science. There's some tests here and there, and people will do, clinical trials with a handful of patients and things like that. But
Sure.
so we had this critical decision. How do we collect the really good, professionally significant scientific data, but
Hmm.
still make it affordable enough to where your average Joe
Yeah.
can do this? I mean, spending $100,000, or excuse me, $100 million on getting something like this clinically approved, it's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was significantly less than that, it's like skincare has to be affordable for daily use. And so our decision was get as much in vitro, meaning data from a petri dish with human cells as we
Mhm.
can, and then go very heavy on anecdotal data in humans. So not
Mhm.
necessarily a formal clinical trial, but
Mhm.
hey, we've had tons of people use it, and what can they testify to as far as the results? What's their testimonial?
And,
And
and we've had Well, sorry, we've had many companies like this come out of BYU where you really have to decide, are we going for clinical, for like FDA approval? Is this going to be a prescription drug, or are we going to make it over the counter and then we can only represent it certain ways, but it's faster to market, we can make it cheaper for people. So that's the decision. So you decided to go the way that would be faster to market and keep it more affordable. And then, so then you got to make the product. That sounds really hard. What did you do next?
yeah, I thought it was going to be really, really hard.
Hmm.
And it was really intimidating at first. It took, I don't know, 5 or 10 iterations to settle on something that we really loved.
Hmm.
But, initially I faced this decision, do I hire out the development of the actual
Yeah.
medium that the molecule is going to go in? We had done lots of testing on the right dosage for the molecule, or maybe a better word would be concentration.
Hmm.
But I'm glad I didn't hire it out, and I'm glad I decided to do it in-house because the the cream that we ended up with is far different from what you would buy at Walmart, like a Eucerin or a CeraVe, even though those are great lotions.
Sure.
It's composed of all natural molecules, and we have eczema patients that, CeraVe as an example is currently the best-selling lotion for eczema. I have
Hmm.
eczema patients tell me it's painful to use. Now it helps, so they use it, but it's painful to use. Not only is our molecule going to accelerate the rejuvenation of their skin cells in the long run, but we had patients saying as soon as they applied it to their wounds, holy cow, this is soothing right off the bat.
Hmm.
And so, yes, it was a long process to develop it in-house, but what we came up with was something that is unconventional for the industry. And it turns out, I think that's been a lot of our success because people keep coming back to us because they've never used a lotion like ours before.
Hmm. And then, okay, so great. So you settle on the right formula, and then now you've got to manufacture it too. How do you do that? How do you outsource, I assume? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So at first we did manufacturing in-house just because it was such a small
Hmm.
like amount, like mostly just people beta testing it and a few early sales. It
Hmm.
quickly got out of hand to do that ourselves, and quality control was just too much. But we found a manufacturer here locally in Utah that does a phenomenal job, and her um, MO is super aligned with ours. It's just really high quality formulas and all natural ingredients.
Hmm.
But you'd be surprised how tricky that word gets. Like, what is a natural
Yeah,
ingredient
what is natural?
really? We've kind of settled into what we think that means and what,
Mm,
using that philosophy to our advantage without getting bogged down too much. But
mm.
no, the manufacturing actually has been one of the easiest parts. We've had excellent partners.
Okay, good. And so you've got the product, it's being manufactured. Now you're marketing. You have your website, which looks good. I clicked around on here. The
Oh,
what else
thanks.
do you do? What else do you do to get it out there to people?
Yeah, that's so, Dave, I I like to think I'm a passable scientist. But
Yeah,
as an entrepreneur, I'm very new. I'm just barely budding. And
yeah,
so that's been the biggest challenge for me as an entrepreneur is I'm enamored with the product development side. I'm enamored with the
mm,
science behind it, the testing, collecting testimonies. It's been an absolute blast. And then there came this point where it's
mm,
like we aren't moving product.
mhm,
And I'd be lying if I said that wasn't still a challenge. We've overcome a lot of hurdles and we're starting to pick up some momentum. But
mhm,
it's just been a mix of, advertising online. We're also on Amazon with the healing cream, going to different trade shows or different fairs or local events. But yeah, no, it's that's been the biggest challenge is now we have a product. We've got hordes of people that can't say enough good things about it. But how do I translate that to mass market appeal?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
We've had good progress. I'm satisfied with the way it's going, and it's been a deeply satisfying learning experience as an entrepreneur also.
mhm. That's good. And so what in terms of marketing, what do you think? To me, it sounds like you've done all the hardest parts, creating the product and the manufacturing. And for me, I'm thinking marketing, oh, that's fun, but we each have our different parts that appeal to us, right? And so what in terms of marketing, what's been most effective so far? Does Amazon drive traffic with you, or is it mostly, paying for ads, or what works best?
The best, highest returns we've gotten has been events.
Okay.
Like when people can get there and actually try the cream and put it on, like we've had really, really good success with events.
Hmm.
We really struggled. We started with meta ads probably 3 or 4 months ago
Hmm.
and ran ads for a couple of months and really struggled to get any returns. And it's funny because people would visit our website, like they saw the ad, they were interested in what we had to offer. They'd visit the website and then they'd be like, not purchase. Which is fine, and things like that take time. But we decided to pause the campaign and do some adjustments. And as like gut-wrenching as that was to stop progress for a little bit, it was really good because as I took a deeper dive into what do our landing pages look like, what do our websites look like, how are we presenting the product, what's the emotion surrounding it, what's our target customer avatar, how are they experiencing it, and really drilling down on those things has helped me understand not just meta ads better, but like my whole business and my whole industry. So, yeah, the most successful has been in-person events, but hopefully this week that's going to change as we relaunch the ad campaigns with a much deeper focus on what went well during those in-person events and how can we translate that to an experience online.
Okay, perfect. So a lot of students want to do things like this, and it's a huge project, right? As you went along, when you ran into things that you didn't know how to do, where did you look for answers?
That's such a good question. I mean, really, and I know this is so cliche to say, but
Mm,
like for a young entrepreneur like me, the biggest key is the right network. And
mm,
I don't just mean a broad network. Like knowing lots of people is fine, but knowing the right people and developing a relationship with them in such a way that they're excited to help you has been so key. Definitely one of the biggest leverage points for that for me has been an incubator called iHub Utah.
yeah.
That has been, phenomenal. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a really sticky situation and like literally the perfect mentor came along through that program that helped me through that exact challenge. But you've also got to have mentors that are not just knowledgeable, but they're in your corner. Like they're willing to fight for you. And that's been the biggest thing. Like I've had a lot of mentors that have been super helpful from an intellectual standpoint,
Yeah.
but things start to go a little bit awry and they're just like, yeah, whatever, which is fine. That's
Yeah.
a
They
lot of
just don't want to
mentors.
be part of it. Yeah.
That's just the relationship that you have, and not every mentor is going to be super tight knit with you. But then I've had other mentors. Corbin Church has been a big one that, things are going great. He's got some awesome advice about how to really take advantage of the wave. Things are not going so great. He's like totally fighting with you in your corner.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for any entrepreneurs that are wanting to do an endeavor like this, you have to develop the skill of not just knowing lots of people and having their phone number in your contacts list, but developing a relationship with them in such a way that they are excited to help you. And they are. Like you
Hmm.
said, like before we started recording at the beginning when we were chatting,
Yeah.
these successful entrepreneurs are highly, highly interested in being of service to a young entrepreneur.
For
Not
sure.
that I would endeavor to take advantage of that, but I've noticed their willingness, you know,
For sure.
completely. But putting yourself in a position where that kind of relationship is possible.
Yeah, well, and you should take advantage of it, And if anyone doesn't know, so Corbin Church, who you mentioned, runs iHub, which is a nonprofit incubator off campus. And so the Easy Skincare product, that company is an iHub company, it sounds like, right?
It
Okay.
is, yeah.
So you have space over there, access to their mentors, they have legal help and all these other incubator things, and they bring in people and really great. Did you hear about iHub and apply to it, or had you taken a class from Corbin? How did you connect over there?
I actually had never met Corbin or even heard about iHub until I did the Student Innovator of the Year competition.
So,
And one of the administrators of that competition actually introduced me to Corbin and to iHub.
hmm,
So, I mean, it's as much as I like to sometimes, as much as sometimes I feel frustrated about an academic climate and the challenges that come along with it,
yeah.
like I would not be anywhere that I am without being at BYU,
Hmm.
connected in with the people that are there, the resources that are there. Obviously, the access to research and technology. Like, I don't know. I know you and I always talk about this, but it's just a big
Yeah,
web. I mean, it's just got to
it
come
is.
together.
Well, and so you were in the Tim Jenkins class. That's key also. And
Oh
they
yeah.
do, it's only grown since you were in the class. And
Has
they
it?
do their annual pitch, yeah, over at the Rollins Center. Were they doing that when you were in the class?
No, I wish they would. That would be a lot of
See,
fun.
and they bring in investors as well. Like you can get a pretty good network of smart people in biotech just from being in that class. And then
Yeah.
obviously you took it beyond that.
Yeah, no, I certainly have. And a lot of my biotech specific mentors have all come from that class.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, maybe even all of them.
Hmm.
Yeah, but at least most of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
the cool thing about what Tim Jenkins is doing is that he recognizes the power of academic science
Hmm.
and kind of unfettered and kind of free-spirited as it is.
Hmm.
But he also recognizes how much value there is in taking something that's kind of floating around in the academic world and like making something out of it.
Making it real.
And
Yeah.
that's what makes Tim Jenkins such a powerful force for good in the university community is
Hmm.
that he's not afraid to do something material about it.
Yeah. Well, and so it's easy in academics to be very ponderous and academic, nothing wrong with that. But to do what you've done, you have to be very action oriented. How did you just make yourself do like Tim and go out there and do things?
Oh my gosh, that is such an interesting question. I don't know.
Yeah. And
I
I've seen
think
you hustling the whole time. Like even when you had questions early on, you would be over here asking them, okay, what does this part of a patent mean? And all these things.
yeah, man, I mean, if you want to if you want to understand how to make a difference, you have to understand money. And the
Hmm.
reason why I say that is not purely financial, but the way that in a free market economy, the way that we decide if something is worth our while as a society, and not that there aren't flaws, I
Mhm.
mean, this is a general rule of
Sure.
thumb, but
Sure.
the way we decide if something is worth our while as a society is if someone is willing to pay money for it. How many people are willing to pay money for it, and how much are those people willing to pay?
Yeah.
And so, like, I would never have understood the reason why it was so important to be action oriented until I started learning about money and entrepreneurship. And
Mhm.
anyone who's interested, if you're a scientist looking to make a bigger impact with your research, one of the best books I can recommend that's not related to science at all is called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He has a
Classic. Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful way of talking about money without really talking about money. And
Mhm.
it opens your mind to the way that if you want to make a difference, you have to think about how to commercialize something. And I think
Mhm.
another big moment for me was actually in Tim Jenkins' class. He shared an experience. I hope he would be okay with me sharing this. I think he would be. But
Yeah.
he had an experience early on in his academic career where he published a paper and forgive me if I get any of these details wrong, but he got really excited about how big of a response the paper got and how many views or reads on the portal and
Mhm.
things like that. And he's like, I found myself getting really excited as a academic faculty member because man, this was a really big deal for me. And then
Mhm.
I sat back in my chair and thought, 30 people read this.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the impact that I'm excited about. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, again, academic science has
Mhm.
a huge, important role to play. And the fact that
Mhm.
it's so ponderous, as you put it, makes it so powerful. But
Mhm.
that moment where you sit back and say, man, this is like a big crown jewel for me, and 30 people read it. For Tim Jenkins, that seemed to be an inflection point in his career. And when I heard that story, it was definitely an inflection point in mine because I realized
Yeah.
the research, science for science's sake, is nice. Like it's a fun thing to do. I certainly enjoyed being involved in it, but
Mhm.
there's so much more fruit when you say, okay, let's hold hands with industry and say, how can we leverage this ponderous technology so that it actually can get to the bedside? So that like someone in need can actually leverage it. And I mean, you know me, that's my biggest career passion is how can we take all of these amazing ideas that are sitting on the shelf, so to speak, and like make something happen with them. So I don't know, I guess that was kind of long-winded, but
No,
I
that's
think that
great.
was a
And
good
like you
answer to
said,
your question.
well, and I know you're excited about scaling, about the possibility of I create one thing. So like with your Easy Healing Cream, for example. So if someone uses it instead of a rival product and so it doesn't hurt. So let's say the effect is identically the same, but they just don't feel that pain. So you've solved that pain. And that's great. But if you multiply it by 10 million people, that's super great. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like just to accumulate a solution you provide someone is so exciting.
No, it's super exciting. And I've found with Dr. Misrahi, who's now working over at Norda College of Medicine, we still work together
Uh-huh.
often. In fact, I'm headed over to his office right after this.
Uh-huh.
He and I have experienced this together, and I think both of us have been shocked at how satisfying it's been to be in the lab and see something cool happen, but then get a text on a Thursday random afternoon from someone who's trying one of our products that says, my baby was crying and she didn't cry at all last night.
Yeah.
Or I'm a supermodel and I need my skin to look beautiful and I broke out and
Mm.
in 3 days I feel clear again. You guys totally saved my hide.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah. Yeah.
money to be made here and there's a lot of like cool, investment opportunities and intellectually stimulating aspects to this endeavor. But like when you get
Mm.
that text, that's a high that for me is hard to replicate. Like
Uh-huh.
I was in pain and you helped me, or at least played a small part in me not now being in pain.
Hmm.
I haven't felt a high quite like that.
Yeah, that's super meaningful. Yeah. So, well, good. So, some people with technologies moving the way they are and AI specifically, people are worried about layoffs and jobs. And to me, one possible future is a lot more people become entrepreneurs. Like maybe more
Mhm.
students will go forward. There's already a trend that direction that has nothing to do with AI probably. So given that, do you think can anyone do this? Like how do you become an entrepreneur?
Well, it's interesting you bring up AI first of all, because it's made it so that anyone can be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the training is easy to get
Hmm.
because of AI. Second of all, like instead of having to have an employee with a $50,000 a year salary, I
Hmm.
can have an AI machine do it. I mean, you should see many of the images on our website are AI generated. And maybe you could
Look good.
notice, but most people don't.
I
And they
had
look beautiful. And it
I would
took
have
me
guessed stock footage. They look good.
Most of them are there's a few that I had to hire a photographer, like initial product shots and stuff. You've got to have a photographer, but I
Hmm.
mean, I would have spent thousands on a shoot. And I spent $15 a month on the service, and it took me like 45 seconds. So
Yeah.
it's like that's just one example. So that's the first point is that yeah, I mean you have two options with AI, right? Like you can be nervous about it or you can leverage it. And I think most savvy young professionals are taking the second approach and leveraging it.
Yeah.
But the way you phrase your question is really important to me is can anybody do it? And I think that's a really important question. I think the answer is yes, anybody can do it.
Hmm.
Um, however,
Well, I mean, maybe not everyone will do it at $1 billion level, but pre-industrial revolution, I guess everyone was an entrepreneur, right? So,
I suppose so. I think though it's important to recognize that as sexy and exciting as being an entrepreneur is, and as much potential as there is, I'd recommend it to anybody who aspired to do it. Even if you feel weak, I feel very weak. I mean, there are days where I'm like, what the heck have I gotten myself into?
mhm.
I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm total imposter.
Yeah.
The challenge is though, know what you're getting yourself into and understand, yes, the advantages, but understand the sacrifices because it's a deep, deep, deep sacrifice to be an entrepreneur. You
Hmm.
give up a lot. You don't give us up as much as the general public would have you believe. It's a much more stable and a much less risky lifestyle than people would have you think. But there's a lot, a lot, a lot of sacrifice. And so be
Is that
very
mostly sacrifice of time, or how do you see it?
I wouldn't say that it's a sacrifice of time on a day-to-day basis, but it is a sacrifice of time of your life. Like I haven't collected a paycheck in like a real paycheck.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? I never have.
Yeah.
Like
Other than
mo
a student employee, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I've had some jobs, cleaning
Yeah.
toilets or whatever, but
Yeah.
like most of my peers are earning six figures right now. I mean, biotech's a lucrative industry and people do very well.
It's
Most of my
opportunity
peers
cost.
are buying Mercedes Benz and having babies and
Hmm.
so in that way it's a sacrifice of time, but it's nobody's coming to rescue you. It's you have something to offer and it's you and God and your mentors and your community and everything like that.
Hmm.
There's an element of support. But
Hmm.
like I don't switch off at 5 p.m. Like
Yeah.
I eat, sleep, dream, breathe, everything. And
Yeah.
so, but the thing that and I guess I'm going to recant what I said a little bit. It's not a sacrifice as much as it is something that I desperately love
Hmm.
and that I wouldn't give up just because I enjoy it and love it so, so, so much. So I guess that's really what I mean to say is you have to know what you're getting yourself into and you have to be so, so passionate about being an entrepreneur that even if you didn't succeed at it, you would still keep going because you love it so
Worth
much.
it.
Like
Hmm.
I have peers that they're like, "Oh, being an entrepreneur sounds great. Like I could make a lot of money and I wouldn't have to like answer to the man." I'm
Yeah.
like, trust me, if that's your
Yeah.
reason for being an entrepreneur, you're going to enjoy answering to the man better than you are answering to the market.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah.
if you love that and if you live for it and if it's so much fun and you care more about the opportunity for success than you do about the propensity for failure, then there's no other way to think about it. Like if you think about it like if your goal is right here
Hmm.
and you know that the max you could ever do by say being a medical doctor because that's the track I was on even though it's a great career maybe that's
Hmm.
like right here well yeah
Hmm.
being a medical doctor is awesome but if this is your goal and you know you could never get there by being a medical doctor the only way to fail for sure is to not embark on the journey and so yes there's a high propensity for failure but then you just try again and you try again and again and again and if 90% of businesses fail well then you only have to start 10 on average to have a good one.
Yeah.
And I've got a good one and I'm only like five in. So that's pretty good odds. So
Sweet.
yeah, I mean, everyone can be an entrepreneur. The resources are available. It's a beautiful way of life. It's deeply, deeply, deeply satisfying and fulfilling. But maybe not everybody should.
Hmm.
There are some people that I've talked to. I had a conversation with one of my best friends the other night. And he's like, I really am wondering if I should quit my job and start a company. And I'm like, well, what are your goals? What do you want out of life? What do you want your lifestyle to look like, your schedule? His wife was pregnant at the time. And he's like, well, really, I want my goals to look like this. I want to have this much money. This kind of net worth would be great. This gentleman has a great position in his company. He's taken a big risk with the company and become very high up very early on. I'm like, well, you are on track to achieve your goals and more in the next 10 years. Why would you be an entrepreneur when you have what you want?
Right.
And so just because it's amazing, and it is, and just because there's a high propensity for, huge success, and there is, be prayerful and be thoughtful. Don't just do it because it seems cool, even though it is cool. And if you think it's cool,
Mhm.
100%
It's
do it.
cool. Mhm.
And there's
Great.
resources. I mean, you don't have to be good at it right away. I certainly am still not good at it.
Yeah. Well, you've got a product on the market. And when I posted about you on LinkedIn last week, because it's just impressive how fast you got there. It's probably maybe if we were really conservative, we would say a year. It's a year or less to get your product to market, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you say the starting point is, but it would
Yeah.
have been about a year.
Yeah.
More likely less than that.
Yeah, pretty great. So a lot of people go after software because in a few months I can have a product for sale or maybe shorter. But here, like a real physical product, a lotion within a year, pretty great. So, but well, great. So thanks for coming on and talking about it, Carter. Uh, appreciate you taking the time, and this will be helpful to students who are thinking about being entrepreneurs. Anything, what's next for you? What are future plans?
The next big thing is acne care.
Okay.
We have our first product in the lineup that's the toning mist out right now. Just to kind of wet people's palate, but we're gonna have a five-step routine coming out in the next month or 2 months. So that's the
Mhm.
next big move.
Okay.
We're
And they've had
excited about
encouraging
it.
results. So easyskincare.com. Is there anywhere else? I guess Amazon people can look as well, right?
Yep, they sure can. Yeah,
And it's
thank you so
easy.
much for chatting.
You bet. And it's easy, Easey
That's
on that.
correct.
So
Yep, that's
great.
absolutely right.
Okay. Well, so good. Hey, thanks, Carter. Good talking to you as well.
Thank you, Dave. Have a good one.